So I have a tub that I use the hot water to take a bath with, and I shower with the cold water. So now, uh, you know, this is the problem that I'm having. So it's nothing in my house, and it's not livable. I have mold that I've been uh, all through the house that I've been sucking up ever since the windstorm, the burrow, uh, everything. So I'm asking y'all, in order for Glow to build the house that that helping the city and helping me also to grant my variance, please. This is my request. So I'm giving y'all the opportunity to help, to be assistance to me of doing what needs to be done. And I know that y'all gonna do the right thing, because I know some of y'all are godly peoples, or all y'all might be godly peoples. And I'm standing on God's word, and I'm trusting God's word in order for y'all to do what's right and to help me in my situation. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Anyone else that has filled out a form would like to speak on this matter? Mr. Goff?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Jeff Goff. I'm the builder assigned by the General Land Office to help Ms. Cooper get a new house. I just wanted to explain some of what's going on, why she's requesting the variance, what's needed. She does live in a very odd-shaped lot, and it's a very narrow lot. So she's only 33 feet wide for her lot. For me to meet the minimum requirements of a General Land Office house, I have to have a 24-foot wide house. So that right there, you can see 5 foot on each side wouldn't work. We'd be 1 foot short. But then the other option I have with the General Land Office is I have to do a ramp, or a handicap accessible ramp. So the ramp is not a permanent structure, but it is a wooden structure that's a ramp. So that would also be in the the setback that I'm requesting. So really, if you look at a 33-foot wide lot, if you took 5 feet off each side, I'd have 23 feet. The house is 24 feet wide. On top of the 24-foot wide house, I need to have a 5-foot wide ramp, just a wooden structure to allow a wheelchair to access the house. That is what the new house would look like. What the old house looks like now is currently her house is not even built on her lot. I mean, it's on her lot, but it also is on the neighbor's lot. I don't know if you'll have a picture of the survey in front of you or not, if you can see it. So what we're trying to do is fix a problem for the city of Cleveland and for Ms. Cooper by demolishing the old house, which isn't even set in the proper setbacks currently, building a new house with just a little variance to allow us, to get the new house built on the proper setback, on the proper lot lines, with a little bit of variance and help, mainly because of the wheelchair ramp, which is not a permanent structure. It's just a wooden, wheelchair ramp. But the permanent structure would be 6 inches on either side of the variance line that we would need. That would be the permanent structure of the house. So we need 4.5 feet instead of 5 for the permanent structure setbacks. And then the ramp would need to be, a 5-foot wide ramp. So what we'd probably end up doing is sliding the house over to allow about a 2 or 3 foot setback on this side, so we can build the ramp on one side of the house coming down the house for accessibility purposes for a wheelchair. And if I'm happy to answer any questions, if anybody has any that may come up. The house would be 25 feet back, so it wouldn't impede on the front setback. We would also put in the normal driveway, approach, concrete, all the stuff, work with the city to do all that. So the other two homes, and Ms. Cooper could probably speak to, I think one of her neighbors is here. So not only have they spoken to the neighbors, they're aware of it, they know what's going on. And I think it would actually improve the other neighbors, because one of the neighbors, her house is in one of the neighbors' pieces of property.
So are you going to put up a fence with that?
No, they do not do fences. No fences.
Another thing is, because water runoff from the roof.
Sure.
You don't want it, it's supposed to be so many feet from.
Of course. And so they'll do a 12-inch eave instead of a 2-foot eave to accommodate for the shorter lot width. And then the house will actually be elevated on pilings about 3 feet because it is in a flooded, flood-prone area. So water runoff, for a foundation wouldn't matter. The water would just come under the house. Shorter eaves with 1-hour rated, firewalls on the side to help, with that issue, for any fire issues. And then also if we needed to put in, we'll submit the plans through permitting like usual, and if they require us to put in any kind of special drainage or, anything to deal with water runoff from the eaves, plus the house is fully guttered. So any water runoff would go through the gutters and come down to where we drain it.
So once you tear down that old house,
Mm-hmm.
are y'all gonna do any work, dirt work? Are y'all gonna raise
mean-
it, or?
Only is required to fill in where any low spots were from the old house. We'll bring the grade back up to natural grade, nothing,
Okay.
not raising anything. We'll crown underneath the house just to make sure water doesn't pool under the house, but the house will be 3 feet off the ground. So no water will pool under the house, and then we have full gutters on all sides of the house. And we'll submit a drainage plan, stamped by an engineer with the city when we go to pull the permit on how we're gonna run that water off to the street.
When was the original house built?
80 years ago, was it 1950, Ms. Cooper?
So this to me is kind of grandfathered in, that property was sold that way.
Yes.
The original house was built there, so
Correct.
now in order to meet modern standards, this is where the issue's starting to fall a little
Exactly.
bit. Okay, thank you.
And like I said, I think it helps the city and Ms. Cooper both for, eliminating the problem of the old way the house is. Get you and the city, Ms. Cooper a new house.
I'll go through, I'll go through all the slides with the pictures of the current pictures of the property, and then the plans that they've submitted, what's proposed, and then the variance criteria. So I have a lot of I've kind of answered some of these questions in that. So, but we get to that part when we get to the actual consideration item.
All right, any more questions?
I just want to confirm that, did you say that one of Ms. Cooper's neighbors is here?
I think so. Is one of your neighbors here, or is it?
Okay, and I just want to ask and confirm, has there been any, just to confirm, any discussion or any especially opposition from any of the neighbors?
I don't know, but I know Emilio's put out the notice, and we've, this started in May, so we've had several.
Yeah, no,
months.
we haven't had any opposition for this case, but we have received some for some other cases.
All good? All right, thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gall. Section 1, topic item 1, is there any more discussion on public comments on item 1? No more comments? We will move to, I thought you had me turned down. I'm loud enough anyway. We will move to item 2, conduct a public hearing regarding a variance request to vary from the minimum required front yard setbacks and required setbacks from any public street or roadway to allow for the development of a multifamily townhome or triplex project in the mixed-use MU zoning district for a property located at 1010 Green Avenue, legally described as Lot 4, Tract 4, Block K, Smith Addition, Cleveland, Liberty County, Texas, listed as LCAD property ID number 105223, variance to section 126-1634, location on a lot of the city's zoning ordinance, and variance to section 2-38- setback line of the city's building and building regulation ordinance.
Yeah, before we open that public hearing, I just wanted to begin provide context. This property is generally located southeast of the intersection of Green and Santa Fe. They are proposing a townhome triplex style development. It's basically a multifamily development in terms of all the development is occurring on one lot. They're not subdividing the property into fee simple lots and establishing townhomes or triplexes on separate lots. Everything occurs on one lot. It is zoned mixed use, which does allow for that type of development, and they are seeking front yard setbacks to the 25-foot setback reduction down to 15-foot. But I'll explain more when we get to that and show you the plans and everything.
Okay. All right, this is item number 2. Would there be any public comments for item number 2? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is James Davis, the developer and co-developer for the project.
Mr. Davis, I don't have you listed on the public comment request form.
That's for the public comment period. He can just state his name and address for the public hearings.
Okay.
That'll be fine.
I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
James Davis, address is 1010 Green Street. I currently reside in Houston, Texas, 15222 Long Oak, Houston, Texas.
Do you have any other comments?
So, the one thing that I wanted to say, it is mixed use, but it's a triplex. It's a smaller set for townhomes, and that the area of Cleveland needs housing. So we've put this together, worked with the engineers. There's some flood concerns that I think we've met, and we've mitigated any potential flooding. So being that it's mixed use, having a triplex, I think cuts down on, a 3-story figure with 24, 30, 40 units in it. So in keeping in step with the community, with a park just down the street, and I think it's a good opportunity to add additional housing to the Cleveland area, especially in that area.
I had a few questions on this. So if I understand correctly, the setback will allow you to add 2 additional buildings to the property, correct? The variance?
Yeah, well, yes. If we do the complete build-out,
Okay.
it'll provide 2 units on each side of the road that goes into Santa Fe.
I see. So if the variance isn't granted, will that affect the feasibility of the project?
I don't believe it will.
Okay.
I don't believe it will.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So what is the reason, if it doesn't affect the variability of the project, what is the reason for the request of the additional 10 feet? What's the purpose?
Well, the house next to it is Pilot's house, and to not have that setback, I just won't build those 2 units in that property, and I won't add I'll probably have room to have a swimming pool in that area for the proposed tenants that's going to be there.
And since I didn't have a form, Mr. Davis, I think you might have said it, but you're the owner of the property
Correct.
of 1010? Okay, and so you're the one who wants to build a triplex on the property? Okay.
Yes.
So have you spoken to that neighbor? Because I went and I looked at that property, and that property is kind of small to put 34 units in there. And
It
parking, because those streets
It won't be
already
30
are
or 40
small.
units.
Oh, how many did you say?
It'll be 4 units times 3. It'll be 12 individual dwellings.
Okay,
So
12.
that's 4, and then there'll be 2 on the other side, which it will be another 6.
Yeah. I guess once we look at the plans, because that house I know is real close to one side, and I don't know if they would like a townhome towering right next to them, blocking all their sunlight and everything. If you're gonna add the 2 additional ones toward Santa Fe Street. But we'll look at
Yeah, so,
we'll look at your proposed,
yeah, he has, Emilio has all the information on it.
Yeah, we'll review that in the action
we'll
item.
review that.
So without the variance or the adjustment, the plans call for 12 units? And with the variance, you would add another 6?
Yes.
Okay. These units in this triplex, are they single-room apartments? Are they family dwellings or?
These are townhomes, and each triplex has 3 units in it, and it's a upstairs, downstairs. We've modified the foundation plan to add an additional downstairs bedroom for those who may be handicapped or challenged in some way, to where they can have a first-level bedroom. So, and then that'll allow us to mitigate any flooding issues and not do a foundation. So doing a foundation would cause, according to Medina with Incon, the engineer that we have working on our project, to have that 3 feet up to where water can flow under it and not overflow into any of the
Neighboring properties.
neighboring properties. So that was a major change that we made changes to, so that won't be an issue.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Davis can address some questions, and I think would probably be helpful when we're actually looking at it. We'll bring them back up.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Davis. Yes, ma'am, and your name? Yes, ma'am.
I know this particular is also on number 12. Darlene Davis, 1109 Toledo. House is, I can see it from here. But I would like to ask Mr. Davis something. You said that you had addressed the flood issue?
Yes.
In your conclusion, what have you come to?
Well, the potential flood issue.
Potential.
Yes.
The area in yellow, in that area, it's not a potential, Mr. Davis. It is an actual.
It is in the floodplain.
Yes, sir, I know. It is.
They should be addressing the chairman.
Okay. And for the units that you're putting there,
Ms. Davis, let me interrupt a second, please. To make public comments, address your comments and concerns to the board instead of other people, and Mr. Davis doesn't
I
have
was
to
just
answer.
asking questions because one thing that he did say was that the flooding issue had been considered. Also, the area, the lot that he's going to put the units on, as y'all said, is very small. So how is it going to contain, 12 to 16 residents?
4 + 2 triplex units, yes.
Yes. And he's talking about a swimming pool. And there will be, I guess it will still be an entrance and exit on Green and Santa Fe?
I do believe that we have other pictures later on for the meeting when the board begins to discuss this in more detail, but of course, the map that you see in front of you now, we,
Right, yes, I have,
Yes,
I didn't bring my map with me,
Yes,
and I
ma'am.
do apologize for that.
Yeah.
So I guess I will just wait until you get to number 12, where you will have more.
but your concern of addressing, you want to address flooding issues and well, so
Yes,
that's absolutely
yes.
beneficial for you to address us and say you have some concerns about this.
Yes,
So
I do have concerns
Yes, ma'am.
about the flooding issues because Mr. Cleveland has pictures, I do not. But when it flood and when we have a big rain, right there on Santa Fe, where the train is, it floods. And I'm talking, it floods all the way up into homes. There on Green, it starts from Santa Fe and goes all the way, and I want to say it came up to Ms. Jones' house on Green and part of where Mr. Cleveland is. And when it flood, excuse me, you don't have any place to go, and what has saved Mr. Cleveland, I and the people on Toledo Street is the fact that we had a barrier of trees. There was a barrier, and since the trees are gone, Mr. and Mrs. Cleveland put up a fence that will help some. But once you get a residential section over there, and he's talking about 3 feet off the ground, okay, on the ground, you have the infrastructure, and it's hard. So when the water comes, it can't soak in, it drains off. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. So without that being there, it floods enough, and the other additional, where's it going to go? I know he said that it has been addressed. I guess I will need to see it. And where I know where Reese Bio is, and I know what it looks like when it floods, and I know what the residents along that area, what they have to do when it floods. I don't know if, and the city probably has some pictures of it, you know, when it really floods. I know Mr. Cleveland has some. So I guess I'll just wait until you get to number 12. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes, sir.
So the flooding that happens there now, that's just what nature brings. And speaking with the engineers for mitigating possible, the project causing additional flooding, we're leaving the ground the way it is, and we're placing it on stilts, if you will. They won't be 8-foot stilts. It'll be about 4-foot stilts, to where the water can continue to flow, that it has been, the way it's been flowing naturally for, you know, since the property, I mean, you know, so it's not a hard structure that's going to be put there. It's not a foundation that's going to be placed there. And that foundation, you know, probably would enhance flooding, and that's why we got with the engineers, looked at the hydrolysis maps that is put there, had a FEMA individual work with Medina and his group to tell us the do's and don'ts and make sure that those do's and don'ts are within city ordinances, and it won't cause or exacerbate any additional flooding. So I just want to be
Just a quick question, your parking, is it gonna be concrete or is it gonna be natural terrain?
don't think it's gonna be concrete. It's gonna be natural terrain. So it'll be porous. It'll be to where the water can soak into the ground like it normally does and then have the runoff.
Just, we can address this later, but the variance doesn't negate any kind of requirement for detention or drainage or anything. They still have to meet those requirements. That's a separate waiver or variance process outside of the zoning board of adjustment that actually goes to city council. So they're still gonna have to meet our requirements for on-site detention, drainage. If they want to deviate from that, they'd have to get a variance from the city council. So, you know, it should be on them to know if this development plan with or without the variances would allow them to achieve the required drainage and detention. But that's not really the consideration of the variance.
Right.
As requested per se.
Yeah, the variance for the setback is only for the construction of 2 more units, regardless correct. Because right now, Mr. Davis just advised that the plan right now, without the variance, is for 4 units. Anybody else want to speak on item 2? Yes, sir? You needed a mic brought to you? And your name, sir?
Curtis Cleveland.
Mr. Cleveland, yes, sir?
I'd like to say good evening to everyone.
Yes, sir.
My property is parallel to Mr. Davis' property. Matter of fact, I'm his next door neighbor where this project is going to be going in. And I've been a resident there for 30 years. And like Ms. Darlene was saying, it floods over there. And Coach Earl, he know that too. They have lived in that area at one time or another. And my concern is, I never had any water to get into my home, but I have seen over a period of years where people elevate their property. And then water have a tendency to go around that property. I belong to a church here in Cleveland, and Madison City probably is familiar with it. It has a New Bethel Baptist Church. Every time it rains and that water on Santa Fe come out of that ditch line there, it floods our church. And it's did it about 4 or 5 times that I know of. I talked to Earl, we've been talking, and he told me that this place was going to be elevated, which is a good thing if it's going to be done that way. But I'm still curious about the flooding part of it. Like, I got a picture here on my phone I would like to show you if I could on this flood water being out of bank. Could I bring?
He can distribute it to the board. The phone.
Yes, sir?
That was a picture of the last flood we had. Now, you used to could, before you get to Santa Fe Street down there, you used to could put a pedal boat in the water and just start pedaling all the way down back towards the crossing where you can cross the Old River. Just how bad the flood was. But like I'm saying, my biggest concern is the flood part of it. And I'm quite sure everybody else that lives in the neighborhood is close to this flood zone is concerned also. And that's why I'm here today. I don't have anything against a person trying to do anything to improve their life, but I don't want to get flooded out, and I've been there 30 years, and I'm too old now to start all over again. You understand what I'm saying? So I appreciate that time y'all gave me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cleveland. Any more discussion about section 2 on the agenda? If not, we'll move on. Section 3, conduct a public hearing regarding the variance request to vary from the minimum front and rear setbacks, residential buffer yard, and required setbacks from any public street or roadway to allow for the reconstruction and expansion of an existing non-conforming commercial structure located in the general commercial GC zoning district for property located at 810 North Washington Avenue, legally described as lots 7, 8, and 9, Block 2, Robinson-Springer Addition, Cleveland, Liberty County, Texas, listed as LCAD property ID number 68798. Variance to section 126-1933, location on a lot of the city zoning ordinance, and variance to section 2638, setback line of the city's buildings and building regulations ordinance. Anyone that has filled out a public comment request form want to comment on section 3?
As you're doing that, I'll just begin a brief overview. This property sits along North Washington between Elizabeth and Belcher. That's popularly known as Reyes Mexican Grill. So, as you know, there's lots of kind of history with recent unfortunate events and their efforts to try to rebuild that. So we'll get into that during the action and consideration item. But they are requesting relief on a few setbacks. The street side, the front setbacks, from the 25 down to basically 0. And then along the rear from that 15-foot to a 10-foot, and then relief on the required 25-foot residential adjacency buffer. But I'll go over that later.
Okay. Your name, sir?
Scott Pinkerton.
Okay, Mr. Scott, yes, sir.
I think I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of our colleagues here and members of the community. I live here in Cleveland. I've been here 12 years and small business owner here in town. And I just want to vouch for the importance of being involved in the community and getting this individual business back up and running. We did have an unfortunate event and the building burned down, but the opportunity to rebuild and make it bigger and better is now. The opportunity is now. There's a lot of people behind this community, behind this business. It's time for this family to get back to work. The building to be improved. We've got the money to build it, make it bigger and better, and keep it from being an eyesore in the community. When you come in, one of the major drives, you come into town, it looks terrible, and it's looked like that for 6 months. We have the opportunity to pull the plug now, get back to work, get it reconstructed, and make it looking nice again, and get these people back to work and support the community again. They've done a lot for this town. They've given away turkeys for Thanksgiving. They've helped fundraise with different organizations, and they're just good people who give back to the community, and I think it's the right thing to do to approve the variances, and let's get back to work. Any questions?
Do we know of any objections to the request on the variance? Has anyone, as far as residential, approached with any objections?
There was an individual that came to the last scheduled public hearing that was canceled. That meeting, I believe it's the neighbor to the east. They did express concerns. I don't know if they're attending this evening. They didn't leave anything in writing, though.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, thank you, Mr. Pinkerton. Any more comments on number 3 concerning this? Okay, if not, we'll move on to number 4. conduct a public hearing regarding the substandard structure and public nuisance located at 209 East First Street, Cleveland, Texas, legally described as Lot 32 in Block 3 of the Holt First Edition to the Town of Cleveland, Liberty County, Texas, listed as LCAT property ID number R53318, owned by Freddie Uverne, Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, interim chairman, I guess. We haven't got to that part yet. But I would like to introduce online our consultants that assist the city with code enforcement on substandard structures. With Texas Community Groups, we have one of their code enforcement officers on teams with us. So Samantha, if you can hear me and hear us, you can go ahead with your presentation. Samantha, the microphones might not work for the dais, but I just introduced you as our consultants assisting the city with substandard building enforcement, and we're ready for your review of these items. This is just a public hearing. We have some more slides in the action item, so if you could just provide a brief overview.
Sorry.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Okay. So do you want me to read each structure or just generalize?
Just a general overview, and then when we get into the action items, we can go into more detail.
Okay, so my name is Samantha Hyatt. I am a licensed code officer. We basically handle all the substandard structures. We have multiple structures that we are looking for your guidance. We're hoping that you can provide a findings that these are substandard per the ordinance guidelines, and that way we can send it to council for review or voting for an order to rehab, demolish, or rehabilitate.
Okay, I think we'll just go and just kind of ask people if there's anyone for anyone here to speak, and then we'll just go through these, and then we can close the public hearings.
Okay.
Okay.
So as far as number 4 on the list goes, which is located at 209 East First Street, anyone here to speak on number 4? Okay. Number 5, conduct a public hearing on substandard structure and public nuisance located at 700 Clay Street, Cleveland, Texas. I guess I can forego reading the paragraph. Anyone here to speak on behalf of the 700 Clay Street, number 5? Okay. Number 6, conduct a public hearing regarding the substandard structure and public nuisance located at 307 Angel Street, Cleveland, Texas. Anyone here to speak on number 6, 307 Angel Street? Okay. Number 7, conduct a public hearing regarding the substandard structure and public nuisance located at 105 and a half South Franklin Avenue in Cleveland, Texas. Is anyone here to speak on behalf of that address? Okay. And number 8, conduct a public hearing regarding the substandard structure and public nuisance located at 212 Hickory Street, Cleveland, Texas. Is anyone here to speak? Yes, ma'am? And your name, ma'am?
Nancy.
Nancy? And Miss Nancy, what is your last name?
Mary del Toro, but my mother is Aguirre.
Nancy and Maria Aguirre?
Yes.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
So I got the letter and I called the office and I explained to them that I've been tearing down the building, the house, this is a small house. Right now, it's I said a quarter that it's been torn down. So what is left is just the kitchen, like a quarter of the living room, and then the little porch. But I need some more time, because I don't have any money right now. Kind of ran out of money. The cheapest one I've been looking, it's $5,000 to like get the whole thing done. But at the moment, I don't have that kind of money. So I was wondering if I can just use some more time to tear down the rest of the house, pretty much.
Do you know about how much time?
Well, I kind of have like half, but not really.
What are your plans after the building's torn down?
Well, my mother, she's 87, and we're both under the, I told her we sell it, you know, but she's old. It seems like she's, I mean, I've been living there, well, I was 19, then I got married, moved on, then the flood, the hurricane, I didn't get any money because we weren't there living anymore. It was just, I got married, and she was living with my brother. So I didn't get any FEMA help assistance. I did call. All they said that I could get money to pay, you know, pay it back. But I still have to pay it back. So right now it's just the money issue, just to finish tearing the house down. But like I said, we've done pretty much all of it. It's just the kitchen, a quarter of the living room, and then the little porch.
I see.
So that's what is left from the house.
Yeah.
And we've been keeping it clean. My son has been cutting the yard and maintaining it, you know, clean. It's just money-wise.
At any point, do you guys think you'll build another house on there, or do you plan on maybe selling it later on after
Yeah,
demolition's
like I
completed?
explained, it's kind of like with my mother,
Mhm.
but I'm kind of convincing her. It's kind of hard because she's 87. She's kind of attached to it, so.
How long have you been demoing on the house? When did y'all start demoing?
Last year, hasn't been a year. It's a couple of months. But like I said, I would have finished already, but kind of ran out of money. That's the only stopping point, you know, that I don't have money right now. Or at least not all of it, so they can go ahead and get the whole thing done.
So Samantha, our consultant, can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think tonight, what we'll get to later in the meeting is we just need the board's assistance in determining and finding that it is substandard and just kind of meeting that baseline kind of burden of proof. And then this is a recommendation to council, and council takes that finding and they will decide whether or not to actually issue an order to abate and demolish. And they have some options at that level on whether or not they want to provide any kind of relief, delay the action, or give her work out some kind of arrangement. But I think it's really, for tonight in this kind of setting, we're just determining and finding that the facts that it is substandard and moving that on to city council.
That is correct.
Any more questions? Any more comments, ma'am?
No, that's all.
Okay. Thank you for your
Thank you.
comments. Anyone else want to speak on number 8 for the property at 212 Hickory Street? That would definitely be a question for, FEMA. Like Mr. Lavario said, of course, this board is here to decide what the property or the structure on the property should be defined as. But those options there could, like you're asking, could probably be determined by the city council or a representative of the city as well as the property owner when starting to include FEMA. Okay.
So now we'll just need to recognize the time and close all of the public hearings.
Okay, so any more comments or discussion presented to the public? Okay, so the time will be 7:39. And we will, 7:39 PM, and we will mark a close to the public hearings, which were available for comment to the general public. Okay. The next section is discussion and action items. Number 9 would be election of a board chairman.
I nominate David Morton, Chairman.
You had a great audition, I guess.
Second. Doing a great job.
Yeah, I third that. David?
We have a motion and a second and a third. So any discussion about it? If no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. So the motion is passed. So the election of the zoning board of adjustments, board of chairman is David Martin. Apparently I don't have a say-so about it. All right, number 10, if we can move on, discussion and presentation of training and materials for the zoning board of adjustment regarding board duties, responsibilities, authority, and limitations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll go through this quick because I know it's been a long time already and we have lots more to discuss. But this will serve as y'all's training. I think Juanita did send out information. There is a separate state mandated training, virtual training on Texas Open Meetings Act and ethics. And okay, so she sent that information out. The clock starts today since y'all were sworn in. If you can get that to us within 30 days? 90 days. So make that 60 days. We'll have a 30-day buffer. But So this will just kind of be supplemental training, but I like to frame y'all's role in the context of kind of the three branches: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. So City Council and the Planning and Zoning Commission, they are policy boards. They make policy and consider implementing new policy, codify new policy, and laws and regulations and rules for the city. The administrative branch, the executive branch, the mayor, city manager, and staff, they implement the policy and create processes and things to help effectuate that policy. And then the judicial, the municipal courts, and the zoning board of adjustments have a role in terms of enforcing that policy and making sure that all the rules are being complied with, and making findings like today if there is a hardship for providing any relief to those policies. Generally, conflicts of interest, if you have a conflict, you need to disclose that to the city secretary. If there's definitely a conflict, determine, don't participate, which means don't vote, don't discuss. There is some exceptions, but I think generally stick with these first two bullet points, and at least notifying the city and not participating in those consideration items. The third, the authority of the Zoning Board of Adjustment, like I said, you're quasi-judicial, so, and that is kind of split into three different areas of your jurisdiction. You hear appeals of administrative decisions and the enforcement of the zoning ordinance. So if I make a decision and the applicant is not in agreement with how I interpret the code and apply the code, they can appeal to the Board of Adjustments and seek an appeal to overturn my decision effectively. You also can consider variances in specific cases, and also consider special exceptions as permitted and delegated by the governing body. I'll get into that later. But appeals from any order, requirement, decision, or determination made by myself, the administrative official, and the enforcement of Chapter 126 zoning and any other codes where that appeal process is referenced. Variances from Chapter 126 in zoning, variances, you can grant them if they're not contrary to the public interest, due to special conditions. Enforcing a literal enforcement of that zoning provision would result in unnecessary hardship, and we'll go on to define that later. And the spirit of the zoning ordinance shall be observed, and substantial justice shall be done. And then, like in the packet, you'll see this is the kind of the criteria that we follow in terms of our recommendations and analysis of all the cases. Special exceptions, only as empowered by the council and how they prescribe that to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Right now, that's really restricted to just operational performance standards outside of setbacks and height restrictions and stuff. So it's more to do with parking regulations is one area where there's special exceptions called out, and then kind of some other thing like light pollution, dust, debris, all these other kind of nuisance items. That can be like an operational performance standard for a particular use in a particular zoning district. Criteria for approval. So in order to grant a variance, you want to ensure that all this criteria is met. Like I said, not contrary to public interest, due to special conditions, enforcing it would result in unnecessary hardship on the applicants, and the spirit of the zoning ordinance shall be observed, and the spirit and intent of it, and justice shall be done. To do so would otherwise erode the city's comprehensive zoning plan. Talking about unnecessary hardship, how is that defined? The statutes really don't define it. Case law kind of says it is not. Some of these things, it's not, if you don't approve it, then my property is not valuable because it's not achieving the highest and best use. A hardship is not a financial or economic hardship. A hardship is not something that is self-created, I made this addition without knowing that I needed a permit or a variance or whatever. Frustration of property owners' development objectives. So it's like I mentioned, then I can't realize my plan for developing this property, so I need a variance. I think you'll find as we go through these, we try to identify, okay, there might be aspects of some of this is, borderline self-imposed or economic or something, but we kind of do articulate and identify some conditions of this is a condition that happened that's not at the applicant's own making. This is kind of a unique feature of the property, because, I don't know, you can slice something, a certain way and kind of almost always find a self-imposed hardship, if you will. So I think it's kind of incumbent upon us to really kind of peel back the layers of the onion and really see, where the hardship is. And I think the staff does a decent job of doing that, but we'll get into that in the action items and some of these specific cases. Like I was saying, a hardship exists when unique physical characteristics of the property, not of the owner's personal circumstance or business preferences, make it impossible or unreasonable to comply with zoning ordinance. So hardships are generally because of the uniqueness of the property, whether that's an irregular shape or configuration not common to neighboring properties, related to the land itself, not merely financial, or not created by the current owner. They're dealing with consequences because of how the previous property owner kind of developed the property, and so these are the circumstances that they're left with. Some examples of hardships: so unusually narrowed or tapered lots, odd triangular parcels, maybe a creek or drainage feature bisects the property, steep topography, existing utility easements consumes buildable area, irregular lots created decades ago, existing protected trees severely limit building envelope. And here's some examples of the opposite, self-created hardships. Owner wants a large garage, owner needs more parking for business, owner wants more profits, construction costs have increased, owner purchased the property without researching the zoning, or the owner wants to maximize their square footage. So examples of the types of variances that the Board of Adjustments grants: yard setbacks of front, side, rear, street side, lot size, coverage, height of structures, parking requirements, and landscaping regulations. Examples of the types of variances that we cannot grant. And that would involve like a use variance. So we can't grant a variance that would otherwise allow somebody to authorize a use that's not allowed in a zoning district. That is basically, they need a zone change. So they would have to go to Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council. We don't change the zoning. We just kind of assess the circumstances within a particular zoning district and decide whether or not it meets the criteria for granting a variance. And I think that's it. Is there any questions about any of that? Nope. All right, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right.
And I did want to ask, point of order, if we could rearrange the items, the order of the items, and go ahead and discuss those starting at item 14, moving them in place of the order so we can get Samantha her evening back and get her offline.
Samantha, are you still with us?
I am.
Okay. All right. So do we have any objection from the board up here of renumbering these and starting with number 14 and then coming back to number 11? Any objection to that? Okay.
I think it does take formal action.
Huh?
I think it does take a motion, second, and
Okay.
consideration.
So I will consider a motion to start with number 14 and go through number 18 before circling back to number 11 and going through number 13.
Second.
I don't think I can make the motion.
Oh, he was asking for a motion.
Oh, sorry.
Motion
Make a motion to
and a second?
A second.
All right. And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, motion passes. We'll start with number 14. Do I need to read the entire paragraph?
If you could.
Okay,
please.
number 14. Consider and take action to determine whether the structure located at 209 East First Cleveland, Texas, 77327, legally described as Lot 32 in Block 3 of the Holt First Edition of the Town of Cleveland, Liberty County, Texas, listed as LCAD property ID number R53318, owned by Freddie Uverne, Washington, constitutes a substandard structure and public nuisance. Samantha?
Okay, so the property is lot 32 in block 3 of the Holt First Addition to the town of Cleveland, more commonly known as 209 East First Street. Owner is Freddie U. Vern, Washington. Notices um, in compliance, per the ordinance and Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 214. Notices regarding this property were issued as documented. Code violation notices and hearing notices were mailed by certified mail to all known owners and interested parties. Public notice requirements were completed in accordance with applicable ordinances and state law. No visible effort towards repair, rehabilitation, or demolishing has been observed since notice was provided. The property remains in substantial deterioration conditions and continues to violate the city's substandard structure ordinance. The violation in property conditions upon in inspections, the property was found to contain multiple structures in violation. Structure A being a single-story wood frame residence and structure B being a wooden shed or outbuilding. The documented conditions present public health and safety concerns. Mainly the structure A is the worst. Structure A is a vacant, unsecured, accessible to the public and in a severe state of disrepair. The residence exhibits extensive exterior deterioration, including peeling paint, warped and damaged siding, rotted wood, missing panels, exposed insulation, and compromised exterior walls. The roof shows visible damage. Uh, Missing shingles, sagging, and potential collapse in areas with no evidence of a functioning gutter or drainage system. Windows are broken or boarded with deteriorated frames and missing panes. The entry, overhang, and support components are aging and poorly maintained with peeling paint and possible rot. The overall condition indicates the residence is uninhabitable in its current conditions. Scattered debris and trash were observed. Structure B is a wooden shed or outbuilding in a state of decay with missing and rotted wood panels. The structural standards report states the open and accessible condition and invites vandalism and additional damage. Our recommendation is that the zoning board of adjustments find structures on the property to be substandard and under the applicable city ordinance. Upon such a finding, recommend that that the matter be presented to city council for consideration of an order requiring repair, renovation, removal, or demolishing and abatement in accordance with the city ordinance. That's all I have for this one. Do you have any questions?
Any response from the owners?
Not on this one, no.
Like I said, we'd be looking for y'all to make a finding that, just to declare that this is in fact substandard and meets kind of the bar for determining that.
I'm also noticing that the timestamp on the photos was May the 12th of 2025. And I think I heard you, Samantha, say that there has been no attempt to repair the property. Is that since the photo was taken May of 25?
Correct. The hearing packet cover page is actually current pictures, or were current pictures at the time that the hearing notice was drafted. So there's been no change on that property.
Okay. So I would need a motion from the board. So I would need a motion from the board to consider and label this, title it as substandard structure and public nuisance.
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Mr. Buckley. I need a second.
Second.
Mr. Estrada, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. Number 14 on the agenda is now considered a substandard structure and public nuisance according to City of Cleveland ordinances. Moving along to number 15, consider and take action to determine whether the structure located at 700 Clay Street, Cleveland, Texas, 77327, legally described as Lot 1 in Block D of the White addition to the City of Cleveland, Liberty County, Texas, listed as LCAT property ID number R123811, owned by Lewis M. Jordan, constitutes a substandard structure and public nuisance. Samantha?
All right, this property is Lot 1 in Block D of the White addition to the City of Cleveland, more commonly noted as 700 Clay Street. The owner of record is Lois M. Jordan. Lien holders are MR2C Ltd. and Ventura Volt LLC, Dossier and Jones, PLLC, registered agents as interested parties associated with the property. Again, notices and compliance attempts per the ordinance, city ordinance and Texas local government code. Notices to the property were issued as documented. Code violation notices and hearing notices were mailed, certified mail to all known owners and interested parties. Public notice requirements were completed in accordance with applicable ordinances. No visible effort towards repair, rehabilitation, or demolishing has been observed on this property. The property remains in substantially the same deteriorated condition and continues to violate the city's substandard structures. Violation in property conditions, upon inspection, the property was found to contain a small single-family dwelling in condition of the City of Cleveland substandard buildings. The documented conditions present health and safety concerns. The structure appears vacant, is significantly deteriorated, unsecured, and accessible, creating a nuisance and unsafe condition. The premise are not being maintained in a clean, safe, or sanitary manner. The exterior exhibits extensive deterioration, including damage and discolored siding, rotted or exposed material damage, trim, and overall structural decline due to fire and burning, consistent with a substandard and unsafe building. The roof system shows visible damage and where it's actually collapsing. Windows are broken, missing, exterior doors are damaged, visible debris were kind of scattered throughout. The overall structure is in need of extensive interior and exterior repairs. I have had contact with the interested parties to some degree, but basically they're wanting to get a company to help assist in it, but since she is not, the person who was living there is not the actual owner, that process has been held back, and according to the owner, doesn't feel that that's gonna happen. Our recommendation to the Zoning Board of Adjustments is to find the structure on the property to be substandard and hazardous. Upon such findings, recommend that the matter be taken to City Council for consideration of order requiring repair, renovation, or removal on this property as well.
Has the owner showed any interest in trying to fix the property up when you talked to him?
I did speak with Vanessa, and she states they were working on getting the lien removed. That's the biggest issue, is there is a lien on the property. And that way a company can assist in the demo, but I don't think financially or the ability to have that removed is possible, so nothing's been done at this point. And then when I spoke to the actual owner, he basically said he doesn't think that it's gonna happen.
That's why I was asking, is the owner, where does he stand on this?
At this point, he wants it gone. He wants it torn down,
Okay.
I make a
but he
motion.
doesn't really want to do the work.
Is the owner is Louis Jordan. Is the residence vacant or being habitated right now?
So Lois is the actual owner, but they were the owner because they were working and doing payments on the property. So he hasn't actually released the lien on the property, and he doesn't want to until the property's paid for. So it's kind of like a vendor's lien, I guess, is the best way to explain it.
Right, yeah, like some special, yeah, vendor's lien or special warranty, but yeah.
Right.
So it does appear that it is being occupied not in a acceptable manner, though.
So it is being occupied right
She
now.
said it was vacant.
Oh, it's vacant?
No, it's vacant to as far as my knowledge, it is vacant. The guy who went and looked and said it's not rehabable, he basically said it's too far gone to be rehabbed, that it would have to be a demo.
It does appear that it has.
It appears
sustained
about
fire
half the
damage.
house has been burnt.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I see the hole in the roof. One of the pictures, it looks like it's got a new porch.
Yeah, the front of the house wasn't in bad condition. It's more so where the fire, I guess, was worse, that the damage
But once
occurred.
again, you said the owner said he wants it gone, wants it torn down,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
The person with, that has the lien and the executor of the lien, yes.
Well, so this is kind of one of the deals where somebody's paid for this property to a point, and are they behind or are they current?
Yeah, they haven't continued making payments since the house burned,
Okay.
to my knowledge. I haven't been informed since then. I spoke with him on July 2nd.
I make a motion, we deem it substandard.
All right, I've got a motion to deem the property at 700 Clay Street substandard and a nuisance. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Buckley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Property at 700 Clay Street has now been deemed by the City of Cleveland, or the ordinance of City of Cleveland, as substandard and a public nuisance. Item number 16, consider and take action to determine whether the structure located at 307 Angel Street, Cleveland, Texas, 77327, legally described as Lot 2 in Block 1 of the Pine Bend edition of the Town of Cleveland, Liberty County, Texas, including mobile home label TRA 0263109, listed as Elkhad property ID number R125353, owned by Dolores T. Hofsnyder, constitutes a substandard structure and public nuisance. Samantha?
Okay, this property is Lot 2 in Block 1 of the Pine Bend addition to the Town of Cleveland, including the mobile home label TRA 0263109, more commonly known as 307 Angel Street. The owner is Dolores T. Hofschneider, and there is a lending company, Midland Funding LLC, is identified as a lien holder. Notice and compliance attempts, the notices were done in according to the local government code to chapter 214 and the city ordinance. Code violation notices and hearing notices were mailed by certified mail. Public notice requirements were completed in accordance with the applicable ordinance and state laws. There was an initial effort put. Some of the extra storage structures were removed, but the mobile home itself is still in very bad condition. The property was found to contain multiple structures, as I said, structure A being a single white mobile home that appears vacant. Windows are boarded, more so broken than boarded. The front porch is in disrepair as well as the back, and the roof is visibly collapsing in one area, large area. The porch roof and stair cover are partially collapsed with visible rot and damaged supports. Um, Structure B is the RV. I would sit and consider it, substandard as well. It shows extensive weathering and exterior deterioration, is unsecured and partially sinking. Because it's been sitting there for so long. It's surrounded by overgrown vegetation. Its extensions and pop-out sections are misangled, bent, and deteriorating. The roof shows sagging and potential water intrusion. The other structures, as I said, they kind of took care of those, so I'm not really going to go into discussion on those because they're really not out of compliance at the moment. Taken together, though, the property contains, the existing structures are what I would consider substandard. Our recommendation is that the zoning board of adjustments finds the structures on this property to be substandard. Upon such finding, recommend that the matter be presented to city council for consideration of an order to repair, renovate, or remove.
And Samantha, you advised that the place appears vacant. I don't remember if you said, did the owners contact you back or get back in touch with anyone?
I have spoken with the owners. It's been some time. She basically called initially to ask for more time since they had demolished the shed and were working on it. But that was last year, the end of last year. She did inform me that the two far sheds were actually not part of the property. So, because one was kind of, it honestly looked like a playhouse or like something that a kids might have built. And she said that actually was on the property line, but it wasn't on her property. So because she did work on the one deteriorated shed, I had given her more time, but since then, no additional work has occurred and she hasn't contacted me since.
So you have spoke to the owner and sounds like it may be recognized already of what you have discussed and what structure A and B listed in the pictures has been identified as. The owner did not deny that, is that correct?
Correct. She knew it was.
Okay.
She agreed they needed to be demolished.
Well, what about the lender?
I have had no contact with them.
Okay.
They have not attempted to respond or anything.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Buckley make a motion to
Second.
consider it substandard and a nuisance. Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, so number 16 has now been considered by this board substandard and a public nuisance according to City of Cleveland ordinances. Number 17.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt. It does appear that somebody representing 700 Clay Street has made it to the meeting. I know that we've already taken action on that. It would be irregular to reverse that action, but I don't know if you wanted to recognize the person, the representative.
We have taken action on number 15. I'm not going to make the decision by myself. As the chairman, I can ask the board, the rest of the board, if we want to open it back up for discussion or to hear from the person that wants to speak on number 15. Let him speak? Okay. So who may be present to speak on 700 Clay Street, Cleveland, Texas? Yes, ma'am. Come on forward up here. There's a microphone there, ma'am, by the podium. And your name, please? Miss Jordan, yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
I had good intentions to try to get it towed down. And then when I was gonna get my house built and everything, I went to Liberty. And I did not know that it was a lien on my house. That's what stopped me from getting it built. And now I have been trying to get, but everybody want to charge a whole lot of money to try to get it towed down. I'm not behind on my taxes. All I owe is $233. I just went and paid the other day. I don't have a lot of money. I'm on dialysis. I'm sick. So I try to do the best I can.
Are you wanting the house tore down?
Sir?
Are you wanting the house tore down?
Yes, yes.
That's what we made the action on.
Yes, that's what I wanted to
So
tell them.
that's what we made the action on to do,
Yeah.
to send it to council so they can make the decision on to either take it down, work out a process with you. They have options, so that'll be something they'll be able to get with you on.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Thank you, Mr. Buckley. Okay, so just to reiterate, the decision made by the board on number 15 stands. We can move on to number 17. Consider and take action to determine whether the structure located at 105.5 South Franklin Avenue, Cleveland, Texas, legally described as a 3329 tract of land out of and a part of lots 13 and 14 in Block B of the White subdivision in the city of Cleveland, Liberty County, Texas, including mobile home label number NTA 0781005 R152838, listed as LCAT property ID number R74208, owned by Monty Cole, deceased, constitutes a substandard structure and public nuisance. Samantha?
Okay, so I guess I'm not going to repeat the first part because you just literally said that. So same properly. This property is a little bit different because this actually was foreclosed. The land itself was foreclosed on. So we're technically only talking about the structure itself. That is all. So normal noticing and compliance attempts were made per chapter 214. Code violation notices and hearings were mailed, certified mail. Public notice requirements were completed in accordance with the applicable ordinances and state law. No visible effort towards repair, rehabilitation, or demolishing has been observed. The mobile home was found to be vacant, unsecured, and in a state of advanced deterioration. Multiple points of entry appeared accessible, creating a hazardous and attractive nuisance condition. The exterior awnings and overhang areas show deterioration, weathering, and lack of maintenance. Exposed materials appear rusted, loose, or damaged, and are not properly protected by the elements, creating a potential for falling and structural hazard. The roof appears deteriorated with visible damage areas. Multiple windows are broken out, missing. Window frames are deteriorated and not weather tight. The structure exhibits extensive exterior deterioration, including peeling paint, rotted wood, components damage, siding, and general structural decline. The property also contains accumulated debris, trash, and discarded materials around the structure that are causing a public nuisance. Our recommendation for the zoning board on this one is definitely recommending it to go to the city council for consideration of an order to remove, repair, or demolish the structure. And that's all I have for that one.
I have a question. This is Julian Esparza. Since this property is foreclosed, who foreclosed on it? Do you know?
So it was foreclosed by, due to taxes, so, it wasn't sold it wasn't sold at the county court steps during the tax foreclosure. At that point, it became, tax entity owned right now, so it's kind of in trust as of the moment.
Okay,
The
so-
land, not the structure, the land.
So the land is pretty much city property then, once that comes
Yes,
out
so
of-
basically, in order to, try to get the property sold and have somebody paying taxes on it again, we've got to get the structure off and demolished. That way, we could attempt to sell the land, and get taxes being occurred on the property again.
Yeah, it's owned in trust, I believe, with the school and the county, in addition to the city. We've had cooperation from the school district. We cannot get a response from the county judge in order to handle it outside of this process, so we're just going ahead and dotting the i's, crossing the t's, so that we can go ahead and get this abated and get it, reintroduce it back into economic, productive use, get it sold to somebody.
Well, I'll make a motion.
The owner is deceased and there is no more claim to the structure. Is that right, Samantha?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't know if you were talking to me.
I'm sorry, I didn't, yeah. So I've got a motion from Mr. Esparza,
I'll second.
Mr. Buckley second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Number 17 has now been identified by this board as a substandard structure and public nuisance according to the City of Cleveland ordinance. Moving on, number 18, consider and take action to determine whether the structure located at 212 Hickory Street, Cleveland, Texas, 77327, legally described as Lot 7 in Block 19 of the Section 2 North Side Edition of the Town of Cleveland, Liberty County, Texas, listed as LCAD property ID number R60819, owned by Nancy and Marie Aguirre, constitutes a substandard structure and public nuisance. Samantha?
So, the property, same, just like the other one, is 212 Hickory Street. Notices and compliance attempts, were, done in accordance with the Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 214 and City Ordinance. The code violations, were sent certified mail, public notice requirements were completed. While there has been effort done, as she mentioned, it's still in poor condition and there's still stuff left. The property was found to contain a small single portion of a family home in violation of the City of Cleveland's substandard structure. The structure's vacant and has signs of extended neglect. The exterior is not maintained with fading paint, visible damage, overgrowth, and weathered surfaces. The roof edges and eaves appear deteriorated with possible sagging. Multiple windows appear damaged or missing. The exterior siding is faded, deteriorated, and visible. The yard contains scattered debris and overgrowth with now, that was upon our first inspection. As she said, she has been maintaining the yard. There is overgrowth, but the yard itself is being maintained better than what it was. Our recommendation would still be for the zoning board of adjustments to find the structure as substandard. Upon such findings, let city council order abatement, removal, or demolishing. At that point, they could actually attend that hearing and request more time to get the work completed. It's just, given the length of time this was started last year, and there's just not been enough progress. So our recommendation would still be to consider it substandard.
Okay, thank you. So, based on the comments that we heard from the owner of the property, Miss Nancy Aguirre or Aguirre. I don't think that the owner of the residence is disputing that the house is in substandard shape because of the attempted demolish. So our position here as a board is not to place any more blame on the owner of the structure. It's just to declare it by title as substandard, opposed to the city ordinance. Is that correct?
Correct.
So we're not making any decisions against the owner of the property. We're just making a decision of if it violates the city ordinance as being substandard.
I took some of those pictures because they were charging me a lot of taxes on the house. So I went to the city of property taxes so they can value the house.
Correct.
Yes, so those are not accurate pictures of now. I have some pictures if you want to see what is left. Like I said, it's just the kitchen, the front porch, and like a quarter of the living room. So all of that is pretty much gone. Like those pictures are not like current right now.
Yeah, that's what Ms. Samantha online just said, is there has been progress made, but there's still structure remaining.
That's what I read on.
Right.
Yeah, I make a motion, since her daughter's here and they want it torn down, that we just go ahead and deem it substandard.
Yeah, I got a motion to deem it as substandard. I need a second.
A second.
Second, Mr.
Esparza.
Esparza. I tried to call you Aguirre, Mr. Esparza. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the board has agreed that the property located at 212 Hickory Street is identified by city ordinance as a substandard structure and a public nuisance. Okay, that completes 14 through 18, and based on the motion and the approval by the board, we will now go back to number 11. Ms. Samantha, are you going to stay with us?
No, if you guys don't need me for anything else, I'm going to go ahead and head home.
Okay, thank you for your input. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. You have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read number 11. Consideration and possible action regarding a variance request. This is a variance request. We're going back from 11 through 13 now. This variance request, number 11, to vary from the minimum required side yard setbacks to allow for the reconstruction of a single-family home in the mixed-use zoning district for property located at 818 Lamar Street, legally described as Lot 11, Block 3, Gwynn Addition, Cleveland, Liberty County, Texas. This was the property of Ms. Cooper.
Give us one moment. We had an update on the slideshow, so we'll be right back.
We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by. Okay, so this was the property listed in the beginning of the agenda, that was commented on by Ms. Vanessa Cooper and Mr. Jeff Goff. Is that correct? Were there any more comments on this property or just those two? Okay. Say the pledges again. I did not finish reading number 11 to the next page. Cleveland, Liberty County, Texas. Flip the page, David. Listed as LCAD property ID number 49308, variance to section 126-124, 1, location on a lot, and section 126-1634, location on a lot of the city's zoning ordinances. I apologize for that. That was a comma, not a period.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a location map of 818 Lamar, just west of Beach Street or Ernest Carrington Sr. There's the notification buffer, so everyone within that distance received notices for the public hearing. The property is zoned in the mixed-use zoning district. So they are requesting a variance reduction from the 5-foot side setback. A little background on that. So the property is zoned mixed use, but mixed use permits uses allowed in R1. And so the city looks at the zoning, the setbacks for R1 if the R1 use is being constructed in mixed use. And R1 does have provisions for non-conforming lots. And like I mentioned earlier, Ms. Cooper's lot is non-conforming. It was subdivided. For some time, the tax records say that it had been in that as a parcel that had existed since the 50s. So it has been in that configuration for quite some time. And so it is considered a non-conforming lot. And so that instead of the 10-foot side setbacks, it's a 5-foot side setbacks for her property. Just some context. This is the existing house. It does encroach onto the property to the east by 2.8 feet. So in granting this variance, it does allow us to address that encroachment and get that encroachment off of her neighbor's property. Here's the proposed, here's another view of that. So here's the existing structure right now. It's hard to see. Maybe it's a little easier there. You can kind of see the renderings of the proposed home, the elevation. And here's the site plan. Here's that little more zoomed in version. So you can see that's the 5-foot compliant setback on the eastern property boundary. This is where a 5-foot would be on the western side. And this is kind of the encroachment area in yellow there, portions of the improvements that would be encroaching into the requested side setback, which is notated now as encroaching or basically a reduction to a 2.1 foot side setback in red there. So the blue is what the setback would be at 5 feet. The 2.1 foot setback is approximately where it would be, and you can see that encroachment area there on the side. But just to go through this, like I said, we'll go through the criteria on each variance to see if it does in fact meet the criteria or not. Did you have a question? Okay, sorry. I thought you were reaching for the mic. I'm like, my screen is dead, so I can't. I have to look over here. So again, no change or increased intensity of the land use. It's an existing single-family home. They're just proposing to reconstruct it as part of a grant program, get her out of some of those conditions that she's experiencing right now, and deliver a new single-family home. So they're just replacing it because it's in structural decline. Proposed structure would actually provides remedies to the current property line encroachment, like I was showing earlier. New construction methods reduce fire risk in the area. And the IRC does have some options, like Jeff was talking about, for mitigating fire risk in terms of implementing fire-rated walls and things like that when they're not achieving that 10-foot spacing in between structures, which is really what minimum 5-foot setbacks do on each side. They provide that IRC 10-foot separation. So there is ways of achieving that and meeting code when you're not able to provide for that 10 feet. And they will implement that when they go through the permitting process. So due to special conditions, the literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in a necessary hardship. Again, the lot is of an unusual size and width. It's basically a portion of a lot. It's a little less than half of a lot. It is residue of a lot. So it's a 30-foot wide lot, and the typical lots in this area are 50-foot. The proposed house plans are not unreasonable, like Jeff was stating. It kind of meets the minimum requirements for building a home in terms of egress and room size, et cetera, ADA kind of, turning a wheelchair around, things like that of the code. Lastly, the spirit of the ordinance is observed and substantial justice is done. Again, the remainder of the development meets all of the setback and ordinance requirements on all the other sides. The request is not inconsistent with the surrounding development, as adjacent properties are also encroaching into the side setback. When you look at properties east, west, north, and south, so meaning granting the variance would be equitable and substantially just, and staff does recommend approval. Happy to answer any questions.
I'll make the motion that we approve it.
I second the motion.
All right, I do have a motion, I do have a second. I wanted to ask a question. So the current setback is 5 foot. They're requesting for 2.1 feet, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when Mr. Goff was speaking, he advised the lot's 33 foot wide, the house is 24 foot wide, so you're missing the 10 feet there by 1 foot, so you're hitting it by 9 foot. Where did we come up with a number of 2.1 foot?
It was the movement for the ramp, the accessibility ramp.
The ramp?
For the ramp.
Yes, so
Okay.
they give you the full 5 foot on one side.
Okay. I understand it now. Okay, I've got a motion and I've got a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Wait, who was the second? Jordan, okay, and you made
Yep.
Mike
Mike
made a
did,
motion,
yeah.
okay.
Mr. Buckley made a motion. Mr. Esparza. Not Aguirre. So any opposed? The ayes have it. The variance has been granted on number 11 by the Zoning Board of Adjustments. Congratulations, Ms. Cooper. Number 12, consideration and possible action regarding a variance request to vary from the minimum required front yard setbacks and required setbacks from any public street or roadway to allow for the development of multifamily townhome triplex project in the mixed-use zoning district for property located at 1010 Green Avenue, legally described as Lot 4, Tract 4, Block K, Smith Edition, Cleveland, Liberty County, Texas, listed as LCAT property ID number 105223, variance to section 126-1634, location on a lot of the city's zoning ordinance, and variance to section 26-38 setback line of the city's buildings and building regulation ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this property is located just southeast of the intersection of Green Avenue and Santa Fe. There's the 200-foot buffer of notification in which individuals receive notice of the public hearing. The property is located in the mixed-use zoning district, which does allow for the proposed townhome triplex use there. And the reduction that they're here's some images of the property, the existing property. It is vacant, undeveloped all around. So the request is a reduction of the front yard setback. So that would be a 10-foot reduction along Green Avenue from the required 25-foot front setback down to 15 feet along Green, and a 10-foot reduction along Santa Fe from the required 25-foot setbacks down to 15 feet along Santa Fe. We'll show pictures of the site plan, proposed development plan. Again, so this is zone mixed use. Requirements for this district are front yard 25-foot setback. The city also has an additional front yard setback, rather a street side setback in its building ordinance that also requires 25 feet. So it's basically a 25-foot requirement in the zoning ordinance and in the building ordinance.
This board didn't have anything to do with the building ordinance.
No, but it does, you are the board that provides relief in the building ordinance. It's like the Construction Board of Appeals, but you are that entity. So here's the proposed development plan. consisting of 7 units of the townhomes. Here's, again, along Green Street, you can see where the 25-foot setback would be and that encroachment area in yellow, and then the requested reduction of into a 15-foot setback, that 10-foot encroachment. And then along Santa Fe, same thing, seeing where that encroachment would be, with the green being the required setback and the red being what they're requesting. Here's elevations of the structures. These would be inconsistent with what the applicant stated in terms of being on pilings and raised a little bit. This looks more like a slab on grade. These aren't permitting documents. They haven't submitted any documents for permitting. They're asking for basically relief on the setbacks in order to achieve this development concept. If they're granted that variance, then I guess they'll move into kind of production on the actual permit drawings. Any questions so far?
I have a question on the building. Looking at that last sheet where you had the setback set, I mean, in all reality, you just take off that one end of each of those buildings and you meet your criteria. So I don't really, I want to have a question. Do you have to do the 3 in the building, or can you cut it down to 2?
If you could, if you're going to answer it, address the podium.
I probably could cut it down to 2.
That's what, just me personally looking at it, that variance really doesn't make that big of a difference on that project. So that's why I was asking, what the reason, if you had to have that variance, that section would be, that one house or townhouse would be eliminated, you still have your function, but instead of having 3, you'd have, 6, you'd have 4, you have a duplex.
So there's variance on Green
On
and,
both sides, yes, sir.
so I need the one on Green Street.
Well,
I
like
need
you
the
say,
one on
when
Green
you see,
Street,
if you
not
see
the one-
how it's set on this one and also on Santa Fe, they're both, that building is encroaching on on that easement. You see right there?
Yeah.
So,
So-
instead of having a triplex, you'd end up having a duplex on those 2 sections, on those 2 buildings.
Well, a sidewalk would be on the green side, and the sidewalk leads to the park.
Can you go back to the other picture? Yeah, that picture right there. So that's the question that I'm also questioning, like Mr. Buckley is. So the plans show, you stated earlier during your comments, it would be 4 plus 2. But I see 5 buildings plus these 2, and Mr. Buckley's question is, with the area in yellow there, instead of that being a triplex building, why can't that one be a duplex building? And as well as the one on Santa Fe, so you would have 5 triplexes and 2 duplexes.
With the way the property is set up with the elevations to mitigate the risk of flooding of what I'm building, I'd rather just take out the Santa Fe unit. Because I've already reduced, the,
Well, I listened to you earlier, you've already mitigated that problem by raising it 3 or 4 feet. So these are not going to be sitting on concrete slabs, they're going to be actually a pier and beam.
Yeah.
So all water flows, so that right there, I don't understand what you're talking about as far as flooding, because at that point, if the watershed is going to flow the way it's normally been flowing, by moving that doing a duplex instead of a triplex, you've already just eliminated all issues that you have right now at this point.
That's one extra unit that, well, actually, it's.
It'd be two units that you'd be
Yeah.
losing. But if they weren't, if you said earlier, if these variants weren't allowed, you were just gonna delete those two buildings completely, and you said it wouldn't affect your project.
Well,
Because it'd give you a spot for a pool or whatever. So what I'm looking at, I'm trying to find you a common ground or a better option where you don't lose the whole building, you just lose two units. Because now, the way you were talking earlier, you're gonna lose 6 units. Now you're gaining 4 and just losing 2. And you're keeping your variance within the property, as long as the city allows it, it has to go to city council. This is just our recommendation and what we approve of over on this side. So,
Just to that point, for variance cases, this is kind of the quasi-judicial element of zoning board of adjustments. Variance cases only are considered by the Board of Adjustment. They do not go to city council. These substandard cases, that's a different process. And so y'all are an advisory board in that sense, but otherwise, your decisions are only remedied in a district court of competent jurisdiction.
well,
So-
they have to go to the city to get approved drawings
Right.
and all that stuff. So, let me rephrase myself. In order to get what you want at the end, you're gonna have to submit drawings to the city to make sure it reads the floodplain, got the right detention, right shielding, all that stuff for the rainwater. So at that point, what it does here, I mean, if you say you're gonna take those 2 off, you lose watershed, because, once you put concrete or any kind of asphalt down on the ground, you lose 75% of water consumption. When you add that concrete or asphalt, the watershed is gonna go 75% more. Natural ground absorbs 75% of that water, trees and dirt. So by eliminating those 2 buildings completely, you're gonna lose a lot of water, excess water off of a roof that would normally accumulate and shed off onto the ground. But if you take those 2 buildings and just cut them down to duplex, you still get the extra property, the extra.
So I
Yeah.
see your point.
So I'm trying to make it where you get the most out of the property that you can,
Right.
but still meet the standards.
So I would rather take out one building completely.
But the problem is you're not gonna be able to do that because you're encroached on both sides of the
Can you-
easements.
Can you rearrange, I know this is just a drawing, but if you took out one building completely, would you be able to rearrange to get within the lines of the city ordinances?
Probably on that 4th building he's got, maybe move the storage, you could turn that building
Yeah.
and use that little corner
That's it.
area back there for the storage.
As
And
far
then
as-
that way you'll move all of them over.
That's it. That's it. I'll do that.
And then another thing is too, because I know the ditches are really deep.
Yeah.
So when you put the driveways in, you said it's gonna be natural, like
Yeah.
limestone base or
Yeah.
something like that? Like-
Yeah. And a lot of the modifications that I'm making and I plan to make is to try to mitigate the water flow and so forth. And I'll do what you're saying to move it, shift it down, which will put me inside that. And then on the other one, I'll probably just take out that whole building because it's low on that side. And, if detention or anything is needed according to FEMA regulations and the watershed drawings that's been submitted to the city already, I think that would put us where we need to be.
But you mentioned Mr. Davis, right?
Correct.
Yeah, Mr. Davis, you mentioned that you needed the triplex on Green Avenue, which is the one there on the left-hand side. But according to Mr. Esparza's recommendation, if you move those 4 down, you can keep all 4 of those triplexes up there. And then based on Mr. Buckley's recommendation, the one that's over by Santa Fe, if you just took off the edge of that one unit, you would still maintain the duplex there.
And then there's possible detention or movement of earth that's currently in the property to spread level the rest of the property. So I understand what you're saying, and if we, so whether I take off one unit or just not do that unit at all, I'll make sure I submit what that'll be for the city. So yeah, that's how I would go forward with it.
On your plans too, you have for a detention pond. How big is that pond gonna be?
Where is that?
One back, sir?
Yeah, one back.
Right there at the bottom right corner.
Yeah. So there are no dimensions on it right now because of the volume of water that has to be calculated.
Right.
So whether it's on that side or on both sides, we don't have that.
Because if you can do that, if you can make that detention pond deep enough and wide enough and make it nice, you know, and that way it'll eliminate your problem flooding, and you can reroute all the grade to that pond, so when it
Yeah.
rains, it fills that
Yeah.
pond up.
Well, let's be clear. When that water comes in, it's gonna come in.
Yeah.
Whatever I do as you saw the pictures previously, there's no properties there. There's nothing on there now, and the water comes up that far. So there's nothing really more that I can do to stop it from flooding at all. But the mitigation pieces with the detention pond, the natural
Well-
earth for the driveway, the putting it up on pier and beam, those are ways to help mitigate.
Well, I think what it was the residents are worried about you changing the grade or the plane and then
Building
the
up the
water
property.
Right.
going to their properties. That's what they were worried about. That's what I'm saying. If you keep it where it's at now, which you know it doesn't flood out any of the neighbors, and then you have to grade it out so that way it doesn't go toward the neighbors, any of the neighbors. The problem is that small house that's right there in the corner. That house is really small, and I don't know how you would stay away from flooding him out.
They get flooded every time, pretty much. My mom lives, she's 89. She lives directly across the street from Santa Fe. It was a hurricane that came through. Her house is elevated. And 6 feet of water, I mean, not 6 feet, 6 inches of water came in her house. And had my brother not been there with her at the time that flood happened, she's only 5 feet tall. And had she walked into one of the ditches or something to try to escape up the street, you know, she probably wouldn't be here now. So I understand where the water is and what have you. And the last thing I want to do is cause more of an issue with the problem that's already there.
Well, that's gonna be part of when you send your drawings to the development services for them to, they're gonna tell you where you can shed, how much you can build up, or if you can't build up.
Right.
Or that, what we're really here to do is to say, if you're gonna get that variance, instead of, you know, or property lines are gonna stay the same. So, and I know a couple of you had a concern about the water flow, so, you know, I'm kind of hoping I outline on doing this, but this is gonna be the part where it's gonna be up to the, like I was saying to him, the development part of the city that's going to dictate which way the water's shielded, how big their detention pond is, and what they can do to keep the extra water shedding off of his property into your property. So here, all we're gonna be able to do is say, yes, he can get the variance, or no, he can't get the variance.
But if you're gonna go ahead and reconstruct your whole blueprint right here, then you don't need the variance anymore.
That's
right?
correct.
So,
I actually like what you've done here, and I don't think the variance is unreasonable. I want to commend you. I think anybody that's willing to develop on the north end of town, which is woefully underdeveloped and has been for years. So I'm in favor of what you're doing, and I think regardless of whatever direction you go, the city's gonna you know, they're gonna hold your feet to the fire and, you know, they're gonna make you do it right, so I'm in favor of it.
Yeah, thank you. And this has been a project since the last time I was deployed in the military to Iraq in 2004. And here I am today. This is when the city hall was over in the other place. And I did some duplexes also on Allen Street, up the street where my mother lives now. And Buckley's dad did the plumbing. So you didn't know that, did you?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, again, I appreciate that, and I think this will be a good project for Cleveland, and I look to do more projects as well.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Davis, for your comments. So upon discussion and further communication with Mr. Davis and this board communicating back and forth with him, with his adjustments and consideration to adjust his blueprints and the way that his property is set up at this time, I think I would need a motion to deny the variance request.
You could, or it could die for lack of motion.
Or it could die for lack of motion? Okay.
Whatever the board prefers.
Do I have a motion to approve the variance request?
Yeah, I'd like to motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the variance request? Do I have a second?
You could, because I think we can't, I mean, I guess we could not get a motion, but you could second that, and then people can vote for, and then people can vote against. For variances, and I think this is covered in some of the training material that we provided in the packet, but for variances like this, a concurrent vote of 75% of the board is required in order for the variance to be approved. So if we have a motion, like a vote for and maybe 3 against, then that does not achieve the 75% required. So just wanted to clarify.
So I do have a motion. At this point, do I have a second? I have not heard a second for the approval of the variance. So if there is no second, then the request for the variance, fails. Okay. Moving on to number 13. Consideration and possible action regarding a variance request to vary from the minimum front and rear setbacks, residential buffer yard, and required setbacks from any public street or roadway to allow for the reconstruction and expansion of an existing non-conforming commercial structure located in the general commercial GC zoning district for property located at 810 North Washington Avenue, legally described as Lot 789, Block 2, Robinson Springer Addition, Cleveland, Liberty County, Texas, listed as LCAD property ID number 68798. Variance to section 126-1933, location on a lot of the city's zoning ordinance, and variance to section 26-38 setback line of the city's buildings and building regulation ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So again, location-wise, this property lies along North Washington Avenue between Belcher and also along Elizabeth Street. Here's the notification map of all the properties that received notification. Property is zoned general commercial and surrounded by general commercial zoning. I will go kind of forward and look at some of the existing conditions with y'all. That's the front of the property, and then existing conditions along the rear. But I'll go back now to summarize the request. So this is a twofer. So the first part is a variance, approximately a 25-foot reduction along North Washington Avenue for required, from the required 25-foot setback to approximately 0 feet. So basically a 25-foot reduction. And then that is complemented again with this other building ordinance requirement for the same distance. So that, again, there's a zoning requirement and a building code requirement. So for that 25-foot setback along the street. The second part of the variance request is for a 5-foot reduction along the rear of the property line, the rear of the property, or AKA the eastern property boundary, from the required 15-foot setback down to 10, and also relief from the 25-foot required residential adjacency buffer, which is when a commercial property is next to a residential property, regardless of the zoning. Because our zoning is, we call it upzoning. So you, like in general commercial, it allows for commercial uses and residential uses in R1. But R1 doesn't allow for general commercial uses. But even though the property is zoned general commercial, there's still a requirement to provide for a 25-foot buffer along any residential use or zoned property. Again, that's whether it's zoned commercial and used as a residence, or if it's zoned residential and used as a residence. So there's a bit of background on this project, kind of starting on the front piece. There was a timeline of improvements, basically. Initially, it started as a uncovered patio, just a deck, basically. We don't really have records on whether permits were issued for that or not. But we do have records going back to 2023 when there was a request for a permit, and that permit was issued in error for a patio cover. But it was still issued, it was still constructed, it technically did receive a permit. That's been addressed with our third party. Now, between 2023 and 2025, there was improvements made to enclose that structure and make other improvements within that enclosed patio area. Those were not done with permits. We did discover those improvements were made, and there was permits that were received in retrospect, and a permit was issued ultimately prior to January 2026, when the whole building suffered from a fire, and that really affected kind of the original footprint of the structure. So again, there's some context for why the variance is needed on the 25-foot front part, and then there's some context for why it's needed on the back. So they did receive a roof permit after the fire to reconstruct the original footprint of the roof. When the contractor was able to finally get in there and start making those improvements, they discovered that the other area where the kitchen is, towards the rear of the property, or the eastern portion of the property, that roof was also compromised, and they needed to repair that as well. And there was a misunderstanding about the scope of that original roof permit, and kind of the desired improvements that the property owner wanted to make. And so they've already made a little bit of improvements, and I'll show you here, in that area. But they've been issued a stop work order since. We've had compliance with the GC. They have not made any more improvements beyond this. They've just kind of shored this up, and it's in this state until this variance gets approved, and when they can get a permit to actually go forward with that addition. Again, all we have is a roof. We don't even have a roof permit revision to incorporate this new area, and they'll have to submit some more plans to actually address the addition, framing, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, all that architectural stuff, engineering, all of that. So it's a bit of a quagmire, but this is the plan in which they want to move forward with. As you can see, and I'll do a zoomed in portion, you can see the patio there, that's going to remain existing. They're going to improve that and return it to a satisfactory state. but then they want to make an addition of just under 800 square feet in this rear area to expand the kitchen area. And that would encroach into the required 15-foot setback by about 5 feet, and then it would really encroach into the required 25-foot setback. Now, currently, I guess they don't even fully provide for that 25-foot, not setback, but a buffer yard area. As you can see, it's 10 and 12, so that's only 22 feet. So they're already, you could say that the building's already encroaching about 3 feet into that required 25-foot buffer yard area. I can kind of go through the criteria here of how we looked at this. So the variance not being contrary to public interest, the building and enclosed patio area is already encroaching into the front street setback, so the building is non-conforming. It would be in the public interest to formally grant the variance that has never been documented, as the improvements within the front yard and street setback encroachment are partly due to administrative error, and we take ownership of that. But it's also the result of work without a permit. Again, what was approved via permit, which shouldn't have been, is different and more, and what's there now is more intense than what was originally permitted. So we want to acknowledge the city's error in approving that patio cover. We also want to acknowledge that improvements were made outside the scope of that permit, and no permit was sought for until after the fact. So, but it would be in the public's interest to put this down for once in writing and document that variance. The rear variance would allow for more room for expansion for the kitchen area, which would create conditions for a roomier commercial kitchen, an expansion of that area in a manner that will allow for greater code compliance, since the entire layout will change, which would prevent overcrowding of kitchen equipment and appliances, fixtures, which would substantially reduce the fire risk of fire, which greatly serves the public interest as it relates to safety, health, and welfare, given the recent threat of fire. Due to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. The most of the improvements were at one time made and developed in compliance, like the original footprint of the area. I think it was like a KFC or before? Yeah, KFC. So at one time, that building was probably met all the requirements of the city's code, but over time, city code changes and new requirements are implemented. So the site is, as a result of that, it's fairly compact in terms of, what was existing, what's there now, and then when you factor in requirements for off-street parking and such. So enforcement of the off-street parking requirements presents a unique condition that would prevent expansion of the building area into the side yards. So that's why they kind of have to look at making that addition in the rear of the property. Thus, it would create a hardship if we were to literally enforce the parking requirements and not allow any improvements in the side yard areas, and the applicants would have to navigate how to deliver the remodeled building that could result in a safer, more code-compliant structure should they be granted the variance. And lastly, the spirit of the ordinance is observed and substantial justice is done. So the front setback and street setback encroachment is existing. It's non-conforming. As a result of administrative error that we've acknowledged, and also by the applicant's work without a permit, granting the variance would formalize the existing conditions present on the property. For the rear yard setback reduction and relief of the residential adjacency buffer, to that, like I was mentioned earlier, it's partially already encroaching, at least by 3 feet. That's going to be on the board to evaluate the criteria and determine whether or not the conditions exist in order to grant the variance or not. But that does conclude the staff presentation.
I went by there to go see what was happening, and I think one of the setback for the front, I think the only problem was the sidewalk was being blocked by a truck. So I think it still meets the encroachment if they maybe move that. And that way it'll keep the,
It's been moved.
oh, it's been moved? Oh, perfect then. Then
What is
that
the buffer of the street? What's the ordinance for the street buffer?
So it's 25 feet. So you can see the build line right there of 25 feet and where the enclosed patio area sits in relation to that. So really, it's on the property line right now.
But it's
It's-
still, what, like 10 feet from the street?
Yeah, it's
From,
like
like,
12.
edge of pavement, maybe, yeah.
12 feet from the curb.
Is it? Yeah. So this is the right-of-way line. This doesn't account for where the actual edge of pavement is.
There's a little more to the story. I'm Scott Lambert. I live at 1652 County Road 2274, Cleveland, Texas 77327. But this patio, for example, was built as a true patio, and it's built on the building, on the line, no doubt about it. They moved the truck, so the sidewalk's clear now, but it was built without a permit. Then there was a permit issued. The city took the money of the permit, okay? Bergman Engineering did an as-built to the building structure and submitted that to the city after the fact. That's why it's called an as-built, okay? So, and he operated in it until the fire occurred. That's exactly. So it's been up since '23. The patio area has been up. Now, it wasn't enclosed, like Emilio said, but then it was closed. The only difference between an enclosed patio and an open patio is basically if we took two windows out of the patio, it would be considered a not enclosed building as far as that goes. So on the back end of that building, we submitted the roof structure to rebuild, and we added in the new footing for the new building, right? Well, the footing was approved along with the roof line over the building line, the 10-foot building line on the back of the building. That's already been approved, but we changed that so we are at the 10-foot line for the new structure that he showed you on there. So that's where we're at on that. We're just asking basically for a variance on the front. The building line is 10 feet, and we're inside that 10 feet, right? So, and we have Bergman Engineering working on the plans for the new building with the addition of the 800 square feet. So, this is Dan Collins with Cook Construction.
Dan Collins, Cook Construction, 468 County Road 301 South, Dayton, Darlington resident, but working with the development here, Mr. Reyes, on where the, kind of go the back history of what happened. As y'all know, a fire started in the attic of the structure. So it was deemed basically inoperable and unsafe at that time. So basically a permit was pulled to take that old existing structure that was fire damaged out. The kitchen itself didn't catch fire. The kitchen itself was okay, but the fire happened in the attic above the dining space, basically. So anyway, that was all taken out, removed. The plan submitted by Bergman is what was processed. So during the course of doing that work, it showed the back addition. If you look at the drawing, the 12.7 feet is really where is the question mark. So during that process of redesigning this, that 12.7 feet is now incorporated into the new design, kind of squaring off that building. And so that's kind of the variance of the issue of what was, if you go back to the construction side of what was constructed beyond the permit side, beyond the permit. And if you look at that, no footings, concrete, or any work has taken place. The only reason that structure is actually built that way is because that existing roof over the red structure was also damaged during a fire. So when we were tearing off the front roof, it actually had 2 layers of roofing there. It had a metal roof that sloped back towards, away from this picture, back the other way. And so when that metal was taken off, that structure was deemed unsafe as well. So we took it off, and what we did is we went ahead and had trusses built over the new structure to flow the roof properly to the back of the building. So we were trying to keep from spending money 2 or 3 times of temporary this or doing that. So, yes, we kind of jumped the gun a little bit on that, trying to help the roof structure, but that's what happened. And if you look at the wall on the back, that is simply a temporary wall. That's just holding that up. And I met with Emilio and kind of told him and showed him what happened, but that is just a temporary wall just helping support. That actually cantilevers out. Those trusses cantilever out and are designed, but that wall you see there is really just a temporary wall helping to support it while construction is paused until the actual building permits get submitted, proper channels are approved, and then we can start construction again based on the properly submitted drawings.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Collins. Thank you, Mr. Lambert.
I make a motion to approve the variance.
I second the motion.
If there's no more discussion, I have a motion to approve the variance, both of the variances that have been presented on the front and on the back. I also have a second to that motion by Mr. Esparza. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. So the Zoning Board of Adjustments have passed the variance for the property located at 810 North Washington Avenue.
I do have a clarification. Was it 3 abstention?
I have to remove myself due to conflict of interest. What will be perceived as conflict of interest, so
Conflict of interest, okay.
I remove myself because of my 2 businesses in town. I'm not putting myself in a position to have anybody say anything negative towards the board, the city, or myself. So I withdraw from making a motion or voting on this decision.
Okay.
So y'all have 75%, so y'all can.
So we
I
have
don't know if it's 75% of members present. I'll check the statute right now, but I believe it's 75%.
Is the chairman a voting?
Chairman voted aye.
So you got, every quorum, you have 75%.
I don't know that that's the requirement, though. And I discussed this with our city attorney. Would I recommend a recess so I can make a phone call to the city
Yes.
attorney? Okay.
So at this time, we'll take how long you need, 10, 15, 10 minutes? We'll take a 10-minute or less recess so that Mr. Lavario can confirm the 75% requirement for the Zoning Board of Adjustments. Okay. So we'll call the meeting back to order after the recess. It took a little longer than 10 minutes. Folks, we do have a conflict and we do have an impasse at this moment. Because the minimum members of the board are supposed to be 5, okay? We only have 4 here. And because of the professional conflict of interest of one of the board members, then only 3 has voted to the affirmative, which means due to the complete board number of being 5, then we only have 3 in affirmation, which is not a supermajority required for this type of board. We have to have 75% of the vote, and 4 of the 5 would be required. But right now, we only have 3 of the 5. We have tried to contact the other board member. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to, by legal standards, we're going to have to recess this, and we can do that legally for up to 24 hours. And in that 24 hours, we are going to try to get a hold of the 5th board member aggressively, get that board member swore in so that that board member can vote on this specific item. And to go a little bit further, in my open explanation to you guys, if in the next 24 hours we cannot get that board member sworn in and voted in the affirmative, then we will have to reissue the public agenda, and we will have to reset this until next Thursday. So it would be next Thursday. So our hands are tied. This is legality. This is rule of the law. And so we have to go by what the rule of the law says. So at this time, we're going to have to call this very specific agenda item into recess for the next 24 hours. And if we can get a hold of the 5th board member, get them sworn in and get them voted, then we will have the supermajority, and we will re-meet and reconvene tomorrow. And at that time, with an affirmation vote, the item would pass. Okay? Go ahead.
We just, basically just stand in recess and you gavel us out.
We stand in recess. Do we need a motion or anything? Okay. No. All right. So we stand in recess at this point, and we will confer and convene and notify who we need to notify of what we're going to do between now and 24 hours from now.
I can't due to conflict, man.